everybody, it's Colby here from TheAnimalGuyTV, and this week's video is all about Savannah monitor care. But before we get started, I just want to give a little updates and news. I am now making videos on Wednesday as well as Sunday. I'm not sure what the Wednesday videos content will be like, but when I post a video on Wednesday, it should be quite similar to that. I'm thinking about vlogs or just sort of like a herping thing where I find a creature in my backyard and I just film it and stuff, sort of like a videography type thing. And this video was actually requested by Reptile Bites TV. Link is in the description. And I'm now on Instagram, so I'm a huge fan of photography and I think I'm quite good at it. So if you want to go check me out on Instagram, my link is on the channel art, which if you're on my channel page should be right above you, but if you're not, click on my channel, which is right down there, and go check that out, and also subscribe while you're there. But anyway guys, let's go ahead and get started with this week's video. Hey everybody, you know what time it is. It's time for the question of the week. What is the number one thing I stress when giving advice to a new pet owner? Is it A, wash your hands before and after handling your pet? Is it B, do your research prior to getting your pet? Or is it C, making sure your new pet is happy and healthy? Keep watching to see if you're correct. Before we get into the actual care of the Savannah monitor, let's talk about some stuff about the monitor itself. The common name is Savannah monitor and the common group is monitors and tegus. Savannah monitor's scientific name is Varanus exanthematicus. They are native to Central and South Africa and get from about 2.5 feet to 3 feet in length. The Savannah monitor, as people would expect given by the common name, are found usually in savannas and grasslands in Africa. They are superbly adapted to foraging for other reptiles, rodents, eggs, insects, and other animals. Savannah monitors are very similar in general morphology to black and white-throat monitors, and at one time they were thought to be one species, but they are not. And they have the same general care requirements and maintenance as the Savannah monitor. In the past, Savannah monitors were imported in horrible conditions and they often did not survive very long. But now through captive breeding in their own homelands, they are widely available and captive bred, which is much better than wild caught. And you can find these guys pretty much in almost every reptile store. Now for the actual care part of the video. Savannah monitors can get anywhere from 2.5 feet long to 3.5 feet long. They have a very bulky build, making them look much larger than they actually are. And if well cared for, they can live from anywhere from 10 to 15 years old. They get sexually mature anywhere from 2 to 4 years of age. A hatchling Savannah monitor can be kept in a 20 to 30 gallon aquarium, but once they get any bigger than about 18 inches long, they need to be upgraded sizing wise. An adult can be housed in a 6x2 cage, but a 6x4 would be better for a pair. Savannah monitors are very smart and very powerful animals, so instead of spending a lot of money on a glass cage for an adult, I think you should build a nice, well-built wooden and plexiglass cage for an adult, because these are very smart, they are known to be escape artists, and they're very powerful. So keep that in the back of your mind when buying a little 18-inch long Savannah monitor at a pet store. For setting up a Savannah monitor's cage, you want to include a substrate that they can burrow in. In nature, they are natural-born burrowers, whether it's for digging a burrow or for searching for an underground creature of some sort. They do need a slight humidity, I'm not saying like 100%, but a substrate that would hold some moisture and offset dehydration or shedding issues would be recommended. Don't go too crazy when setting up a Savannah monitor enclosure. They are very smart and they will usually push around the furnishings and plants and destroy everything, so keep it sort of simplistic. Even though Savannah monitors live in a very arid environment, it is actually recommended to place a big water bowl in their cage because they will actually drink regularly. And if given a big enough dish, they will actually love you if they are able to soak. If you have a hide in your cage, such as a half log or something like that, it is recommended to stuff it with sphagnum moss and sort of wet it, not soak it, but sort of get it nice and damp, as you would a leopard gecko, but a little bit less damp than that. Because when it gets hot where they live in their natural habitat, they do burrow underground, and it's usually pretty humid in their little burrows, so you want to duplicate that in your habitat. Whether it's in a hide above ground or below ground, you want to stuff it with moss. On to feeding. Young monitors will eat insects, but I would stay away from feeding rodents at such a young age. But once they get to juvenile or adult size, they can eat rats, mice, waxworms, a bunch of other insects. Sorry, I sort of stuttered there. Much as you would feed sort of a bearded dragon, just like worms and crickets, but and other stuff like that. Oh, you can also feed them a mixture of like eggs and stuff, sort of like a blue-tongued skink. Go on LLL Reptile Supply Co. on their video on how to make blue-tongued skink chow. Link is in the description. Make sure you're dusting their food with a multivitamin every other feeding when they're young, and then do calcium and probiotics every feeding, even when they're older. Now, when they get older, you can sort of slack off and then get rid of the multivitamin. However, you need to keep some on hand just in case the lizard gets sick or anything like that. For heating, keep in mind that these lizards are from a quite warm part of the world. They are near the climate because they are native to Central and South Africa. So if they do not achieve their natural temperatures at the daytime, they will suffer. So at the cool side of the cage, you should have anywhere in the 80s, and on the warmer side, closer to the basking spot, it could be anywhere in the 90s. The basking spot can get anywhere around 100 degrees, but because these animals are hardy and big and nice and tough, they can tolerate temperatures in the 130 degrees, but I would not recommend going this high. At night, the temperature can drop in the 70s, preferably around 75 degrees, but if you live in a cold part of the world, such as northern Canada or anything like that, you may need to provide a ceramic heat emitter or a heating mat. When it comes to lighting the enclosure, scientists and researchers don't really know if Savannah monitors really need full spectrum lighting, just because when they eat their whole prey items, they usually do get a sufficient amount of calcium and D3. However, I do recommend supplying, or providing I should say, UV light, UV radiation, which stands for ultraviolet radiation, which helps, it synthesizes calcium by producing vitamin D3. It's quite a complicated process. I'll put a link in the description on an article about calcium in reptiles, but I would provide it, and a good way is providing a full spectrum linear fluorescence, such as the ZoomEd ReptiSun. But if you want to do it easier, you could also use the ZoomEd PowerSun, which is much pricier than your average basking bulb, but it is a mercury vapor bulb that produces heat, light, UVB, and UVA. Or you could also go with the solar glow. The choice is yours, but do your research on which bulb you want to use. Thank all of you guys for sticking around this long, but it's time for the answer you all have been waiting for. What is the #1 thing I stress when giving advice to a new pet owner? Well, this week I threw you guys another curveball. It's actually all of the above. Thank you guys for watching, and if you got it right, very nice job. Despite being quite fearsome looking, Savannah monitors actually hold the title for being one of the most easiest monitors to tame. So if you're thinking about getting a Savannah and you don't want a crazy lizard, I think that was a good choice. If you spend time with them regularly, like every day, maybe a couple hours or so, they will tame down quite nicely and become a little puppy dog. Anyway guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one.